From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 topics of the week that make us go wow. Co-founder of World of Wonder, Fenton Bailey here, joined by our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell, and the editor of the Wow Report, the one and only James St. James. Woo! We also have an extra special guest joining us this week. So until he arrives, I've given a clue away. Until he arrives, let's get on with the countdown. Number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
This week was about the Oscar nominations. Lots of snubs, lots of good news, and a little bit of history was made because for the first time, 2 openly gay women were nominated. Kristen Stewart for Spencer and Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Because I don't know how to pronounce names yet, but I will. And that was good news. The topic that's really in the gay verse is the Lady Gaga snub and who we should blame. Lady Gaga gave an intense performance.
Nobody to blame but herself.
I'm just saying it's out there. I just thought that the press immediately seized on like a picture of Lady Gaga next to, and this is the really exciting news, especially for Randy and Fenton and World of Wonder and all the producers of the Eyes of Tammy Faye, that Jessica Chastain, who gave an amazing performance in a movie that has been really well received, but in this weird COVID time, I feel like less people have seen it than they should, but I think this Oscar nomination will help people go out and seek it.
Like I said, it is now on Hulu, so I have a feeling that it's going to be getting a lot more attention.
The Eyes of Tammy Faye is on Hulu.
I can't remember.
Because truth be told, there are so few of these movies that I have seen. And now I feel like now I have a directive with the nominations of what I need to go out and watch. But Jessica Chastain is in there in that Best Actress. And they're kind of blaming either Kristen Stewart, who had been snubbed in other nominations, or they're blaming Jessica Chastain, who had been snubbed in other categories.
Can I break in very quickly here because there are 2 reasons that this happened. Okay, number 1 is I'm sorry, but she went a little berserk on her press tour, and she came off as thirsty and desperate, and the Academy doesn't like that. She was trying too hard. I'm just ipso facto. That is it happened. Okay. It happened. The other reason is that she was Hillary Clinton. I've seen this on Twitter where people were so sure that she was going to get in that people put their vote towards someone else, thinking that there was no way Gaga wasn't going to. And so that it was sort of like when Betty Davis and Gloria Swanson split the 1950 Oscars and it went to Judy Holliday, you know? So everyone was so sure about Gaga that too sure. But having said that, the memes are absolutely hysterical with there's like blood splattered walls and it's like, this is Gaga's house today. Or like someone said there was a big earthquake in Los Angeles and it's because Gaga just woke up to find out what it was. I do want to say that a couple other snubs that were pretty big was Jennifer Hudson not getting nominated for the Aretha Franklin and Ruth Negga not getting it for Passing. She was absolutely spectacular in Passing. If you haven't seen it, get a chance to watch that. Also, Cate Blanchett did not get it for Nightmare Alley, which I thought is a shame. And Bradley Cooper didn't get it for Nightmare Alley either. And I thought that was the best role he's ever had. So as long as Cody Smith McPhee wins in Power of the Dog, I'm happy. That is the best performance of the year, or none.
The only thing I will say is let's also not forget, with all due respect, the Academy Awards are usually wrong. So it's just a fun thing to play along with and to play like backseat bingo with.
I think the Academy Awards are always, the one thing that always is engaging. I mean, people just kick off about it. This or that. It's very much like Don't Look Up. People just like are just engaged, algorithmically compelled to.
You know, the one thing is we don't have Gaga this year, but we might have Billie Eilish performing on stage, and Beyonce might too because they're both nominated for Best Song. So
I'm going to end with this. Holland Taylor tweeted just recently that Lady Gaga was, capital letters, that woman the entire movie. So her performance is very divisive, but there are huge supporters, and all of West Hollywood.
It's time to make the meatballs.
All of West Hollywood is dark in mourning of Lady Gaga's lack of
Well,
image.
I am just very excited for Jessica Chastain. Congratulations, Jessica. You know, she worked for 10 years to make this movie a reality based on our documentary, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And she did a fantastic job. And I think Tammy Faye is a national treasure and a really important figure to have had a film made about her, really. And so just good luck, Jessica.
Yes.
You know, she gets my vote. All right, let's move on. Counting down top 10 things that made us go, wow. Number 9.
Number 9.
Murderville on Netflix. And I am saying wow, because wow, this is the worst show in the history of television. Going back to 1943, you will never find a worse show ever in the history. It is unbelievably bad. It is based on a BBC 3 show called Murder in Successville. I don't know if you remember this, Fenton. It stars Will Arnett as Detective Terry Seattle, and each episode has a different celebrity guest star. And the celebrity guest star doesn't know anything about the show, okay, beforehand. They are just thrown in and they have to improvise every single thing. The entire show is improvised. And there's a murder every episode, and they have to figure out the murder, and they have to sort of improvise it. And it sounds like an absolutely adorable idea. It sounds like it could work.
Is it kind of like dinner theater when you like go and people die and you have to walk around kind of thing?
Kind of. It like I said, it's a different murder every time, and it depends on the celebrity, because some celebrities are more game than others. The first episode is Conan O'Brien, and you think that Conan is going to kill it, and he's very game and he's having a lot of fun, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Sharon Stone is not having fun, and she is not game, and you get the feeling that she's going to fire her like agent the minute she gets off set, because she answers in one word, no, yes, completely straight face. You know, there's the rule in improv that you never say no, it's always yes. She says no every single time and just shuts it down. She is just angry, cross-armed. She's furious that she's there. I also watched the Kumail Nanjiani. He's the best one. He's very good. He's very funny. I might stick around for Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. I only watched 3 episodes. And it was like teeth pulling.
Is it a reality show or a drama? I'm confused.
No, it's a drama, but it's supposed to be like a comedy detective show where they just improvise, like, you know. I mean, no, they don't really go into murder cases and let Conan O'Brien and Sharon Stone solve murders.
No.
Well, I meant by reality, I meant unscripted, I suppose. I mean,
it's unscripted in that it's improv, yes.
Does the celebrity know that they've entered an improv surprise murder?
I think they're told they're doing a show, but they aren't told what the show is about, and then they're dressed up in this little police detective uniform and shoved on stage, and you see them walk on and like look around, and like then they see Will Arnett, and I don't even think they knew that it was Will Arnett. You know, I think they were just told that they were doing this improv. And so they come on stage, they come on and just start going. And sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it is just
now.
painful.
Are people hate watching it in the manner of the Sex and the City sequel? Is that what's happening?
Well, I hate improv anyway. If you take me to a night at the Improv Theater, it's like, it is painful to me. So if you like improv, you might enjoy this. I didn't see one person on IMDb who enjoyed it. So I don't think people are hate watching it with
some
love.
people refer to improv as the I word, just you know.
Yes. So Murderville, please, just wow.
Dead on arrival.
All right, that's good. 10-9. Number 8.
Number 8.
I have not read a single good review for this movie that I saw. I saw Moonfall. Roland Emmerich's latest, Roland Emmerich, the creator, writer, director of Independence Day, Universal Soldier, one of my favorites, by the way. Love Universal Soldier. The Day After Tomorrow, Godzilla.
I love Day After Tomorrow. That's so good.
Yeah. And he's made a good old-fashioned disaster movie called Moonfall. And the premise is that for reasons that get revealed,
the moon is going to fall onto the earth. Am I right?
The moon moves out of its orbit and comes closer and closer with cataclysmic results. You know, tidal surges. But the best bit is as the moon enters the Earth's atmosphere, the rocks start getting sucked off the moon by gravity. So the whole thing is, oops, I'm so excited. I'm going to pull my glasses off. Rocks are flying everywhere. It's a great end of the world scenario. And I'm sure all the reviews are just hideous and negative, and it's a good film.
Who are the stars?
If you think Don't Look Up is a good film, if you think for a second that Don't Look Up deserves Best Picture, how it ever got nominated, Netflix must have paid some ungodly amount of money to the Academy. And I want to know where my piece of that money is, because I'm in the Academy and I haven't seen it. But this is a good movie. It's better than Don't Look Up. I mean, if you want to engage people,
all I know is that that the guy from Game of Thrones is in it. He's the scientist. Who else?
Yes. Well, okay. There's Halle Berry is one of the astronauts. There's him.
She's the curse right there. She's the reason why it's getting bad reviews.
And then Patrick Wilson is her sort of mate, paired as co-astronaut, and they, fractured love affair, right? And they both got broken marriages on Earth, but you can tell they're supposed to be an item, and so there's that. And then the third wheel in this is a British guy, Casey Houseman, is his character, played by John Bradley, and he's a
Game of Thrones. Yes,
he's a conspiracy theorist guy, and he believes the moon is hollow, and that might be difficult for some people, believing that we're in a slightly toxic fake news environment, which we probably are. But his idea that the moon is hollow, it actually turns out to be pivotal to the plot and how it is that the moon comes to careen towards Earth with potentially cataclysmic results. But, disaster movies, they have certain things going on. They have, characters in conflict and then some kind of impending disaster. Fantastic special effects, right?
Are we tired of end of the world scenarios?
It felt like comfort food. I thought it.
See, when I want an end of the world
Hopefully Fenton is comforted by the end of the world.
When I want an end of the world story, I just read the New York Times.
Well, that's why these end of the world movies work, because they're end of the world, but not really. Because when you watch an end of the world disaster movie, the world is not going to end. And that's why Don't Look Up is such a misanthropic piece of rubbish, because it does end.
Spoiler alert, right and left here.
Wait, is this something you can see in the theater?
Yes, it's in theaters now. And Roland Emmerich, because of the Omicron, they had the premiere, and instead of a big fuck off party, he did it back to mine. They did the party at his house, which I thought was amazing.
Nice.
The director opened his house for a big party afterwards. So Moonfall in theaters now. I think it's a really good film. All right.
And from now on, all your premieres will be at your house.
Back to mine. Getting Curious with Jonathan Van Ness, streaming now on Netflix. Binge your heart out. Fantastic series of episodes in which he explores all the different things that fascinate him. And he is insatiably fascinated by so many things. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Tom Campbell. We're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow. This week, we've reached number 7. Tom.
Number 7.
We do a lot of Rest Imperfections about wonderful people in show business who have come and left us on this earth. I am going on Rest Imperfection this week for Entertainment Weekly, the magazine.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
Barry Diller's IAC conglomeration took over whoever owns, all of Entertainment Weekly and People and Health and Style, and many, many, many of the print magazines are going out of business. They said that
Six of them, real quick. And I just want to say that not only is it Entertainment Weekly, but it's also In Style is gone too.
So it's Entertainment Weekly, Health, In Style, Parents, People in Espanol, and Eating Well. Now, here's the maybe good news, which is, Barry Diller, whose company IAC bought them, said, we bought the brands. These are really strong brands, and they will continue to put all their resources into their digital platforms, which I have to say kind of makes sense. When's the last time you read an Entertainment Weekly magazine.
I'll tell you something though. I do buy magazines before I get on the plane. It's just something that I love to do. I love to go to the store and get like a big stack.
And when's the last time you've been on a plane?
Well, okay, there you go. I do go to the newsstand every week though, and I get my soap opera weekly, my soap opera digest, and I will get another magazine. I get 2 magazines every week.
I say it because I'm ultimately very sad because, and it's nostalgia, but it's hard to explain to young people. I don't read magazines anymore. I want a bright lit scene for my bad eyes when I read stuff, but it's hard to tell young people how exciting Entertainment Weekly was when it launched.
In the 90s, it was it really was. It was your Bible. Like you could not go without your, Owen Gleiberman and your,
and the Target on the back, or the pop culture
Yes.
Target, and not only seeing it but being producers of television, hoping you made the Target in some way.
And then
you made it
they did the top. They did like a top 10 weekly, wow list every week. Yeah,
it was a must-have magazine. And I think of other like spy magazines. It's or Vanity Fair, how that used to be this little like social Bible you'd carry with you and read all month.
Getting your interview magazine. Yes. Oh my God.
But it's the end of an era, and it makes sense. I only hope that how LPs and vinyl went out of business, and then they come back. Who knows what might float back in the hipster land? But the magazine business, as we know it, the printed magazine business, at least as it pertains to Entertainment Weekly and these other titles we talked about, are no longer. So,
well, he said, the VP said today that for now People magazine was safe, but I have a feeling People was going to be a TikTok by the end of the year. I don't think that magazines have a snowball chance in hell anymore.
Well, that's so right, because Entertainment Weekly came out of People, didn't it? It was a spin-off launch from People magazine, and you kind of wonder what took them so long, because entertainment has been the lifeblood of American culture for so long, and it was People magazine, and out of that came Entertainment Weekly. I'm sorry.
It is funny though, because the problem with Entertainment Weekly and magazines like it, the big problem for me is not that magazines are dying, but that by the time it comes out, it's been 7 days of it already being on the internet. I mean, there's no way to break a story anymore without it already, with every single piece that's in a magazine has already been shown on the internet somewhere.
And also reviewed.
Everything used to be programmed, so it was a kind of weekly thing where you'd have to wait for a week. But now everything's streaming right now, immediately. Yeah. As you say, everything's out of date the moment it's in print. But I think you're right that print will return as a sort of fetish collector's artifact kind of thing, and you'll get bespoke limited edition type magazines.
Well, the same thing happened with books when 20 years ago they said that the independent bookstores were being put out of business by Barnes and Noble, and then later Barnes and Noble was being put out of business by Kindle or whatever. But they're both still thriving. I mean, nobody has ever given up books, and even though they say that it's a death knell or the industry is gone, people will always want it. I think people will like magazines.
Agreed. All right, number 6. James.
Number 6.
2 new television shows, new-ish shows on network TV, and I don't watch a lot of network TV. We've talked about this, but I've been watching Abbott Elementary and American Auto. Abbott Elementary is on ABC, I think, and it stars Quinta Brunson, who was the Black Lady sketch comedy show. It also stars Tyler James William, who was Chris Rock on Everybody Hates Chris, the young kid, and now he's grown up and he's very handsome. He's very funny. And Cheryl Lee Ralph is in it, and she's so fantastic. It's a group of teachers at the worst elementary school in the country, underfunded South Philadelphia, and they're trying their damnedest to be good teachers and everything like that. And it's sort of like Modern Family or The Office or Parks and Rec, where it's that sort of shaky camera and they're being interviewed type thing. It's been done to death, but this is getting a lot of love on social media. People love Abbott Elementary. They're saying it's the antidote to Euphoria things. The other one though is on NBC. It's American Auto, and I had no interest in it. I don't care about automobiles. I don't care about factories. Nothing. But it's Anna Gasteyer, who we love from Saturday Night Live. And this is hysterical. It's the people who did Superstore. And I found myself giggling uncontrollably and laughing, just gut busting, like laughing. It is so funny, so offbeat. It is like the characters are just crazy. There's a really hot guy on that one, Ty White. Oh my god, he keeps me going back for more. But I've watched a bunch of episodes of that, and it's something like, it's not must-see TV. Neither of these are must-see TV, but like once they're in syndication, it'll be like Two Broke Girls, or like something like that, where you can just watch it and not really turn it on.
I call that comfort food TV, where
Yes,
it just feels
it
just
is.
sort of hits the spot.
And it's because the characters are so likable in both of them that I have really high hopes for both of these shows. I think everybody should give it a shot. Give them a shot.
That's awesome. All right. American Auto, NBC Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Abbott Elementary, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on ABC. And of course, they are available back episodes on their relative streaming networks.
And on Hulu, it's where I've been watching them.
Oh, great. Awesome. Number 5.
Number 5.
4 days before Moonfall came out, another movie called Moon Crash came out. This movie, which is streaming on Vudu, was not made for $150 million. It's probably made for $1.50. And the story is, I mean, obviously there's a trend alert here of hijinks and shenanigans with the moon, but basically a mining company. And what I love about this movie is just get straight to it. First shot, we're on the moon. They're mining on the moon. And the person saying, we've got fractures all over the moon. And the person saying, we got to get our bonus. We're running out of time. Quick, set it to full throttle. And they set the laser gun to full throttle. And a huge piece of the moon breaks off, goes off through space towards Earth. So Earth and everyone is about to die. It's kind of like similar to Moonfall, Moon Crash. But what is so great about this movie, I don't know. They start off in an observatory, and immediately asteroids start hitting them, and it turns out the observatory is built on a dormant volcano.
Of course.
So the asteroids hit, and suddenly the volcano's active. So
and then a giant shark comes along.
So they flee the observatory, and I tell you, most of the movie takes place in the desert by a payphone, and the guy and the girl are romantically exes and linked, conflict, broken up relationship being rekindled. They're in the desert by a payphone because the networks have all been knocked out, and the only thing that works is a payphone. And she is carrying a portable telescope that looks like it's been taken from her kid's bedroom. And she's looking at the moon and saying, "Oh, I can see them. They're trying to get back to the spaceship." And then every now and then there's an earthquake because, I think the presence of the asteroids is stimulating seismic activity. So that every now and then they all fall to the ground. Then the two of them it's like Waiting for Godot. It is genius. It is. And they have face masks because of toxic gases, which is always great because they gasp out a line, "Oh, we got to get to the teleporter." I just loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Well, I love that you're a completist with these moon movies.
Well, I have to ask you, do you have a Google alert for moon movies? How do you find out about all these moon movies?
Well, now that we're living in the age of the algorithm, if you search Moonfall or Moon Crash, it'll say, you may also like Moon Meteor or Moon this. And I did that. Moon Meteor is another one that I've yet to watch. But this also stars Jeremy London, Tyler Christopher, and Jameson Jones.
How does Jeremy London look? I used to love him.
They haven't. Twinks no more is all I will say. But
it was Jason and Jeremy, right? They were twins.
They're acting gorgeously and giving it all they've got. And then I learned it's directed by Noah Luke. And I was like, Noah Luke, that sounds familiar. He is a cameraman on the documentary Explant, Michelle Visage's breast implant documentary. He shot large chunks of it, and also Backyard Astronauts. He shot large pieces of that. So congratulations, Noah, on directing this movie. He made a little go a very long way, and it is really I just love it. I mean, love a disastrous disaster movie, and that is said with true love. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Jen St. James and Tom Campbell and Blake. Number 4, Tom.
Number 4.
I feel like I talk about this person maybe too much, but I'm blown away constantly because Kim Kardashian, who should be, after 15 years waning, she should be in she's hotter than ever. And I she's in the cover of Vogue magazine by herself. Remember, her first cover was with Kanye. So this is she's been solo since, but this is her first burst of like, I am Kim, I am by myself. There's been the tease of the new Kardashian Hulu series weeks after the E1 ended, and it just looked so good, and I am looking forward to it. And then there's all the Kanye drama, which is Kanye's got the weird girlfriend, and they dress together in the denim and the eye makeup, but that he's been attacking Kim online, and she's like, enough of it. And her narrative on the show and in life is, I'm 40 now. It's the me decade. And you have to know that all of her fans for the past 15 years are all entering into their me decade, where I'm sick of pleasing other people. I'm going to please myself. And if my divorce came from that, so be it. And then the last thing is that, as we knew would happen, Northwest, and one of the things she's arguing with Kanye about, is that Northwest is on Snapchat and TikTok, TikTok, which means there's just more Kardashians coming. There's more. They're bigger. They're the trouble with tribbles. And I will say, who other than, and James will be good, who other than Elizabeth Taylor has had this kind of a run? And the last one would be Lucille Ball, who went from hit show to hit show to hit show. I think we're not underestimating.
I just want to add one more thing to your list, Tom. I just read recently that her company of Spanx wear is worth what, $2.5 billion because investors are just flooding in. Is that right?
Now, I want to say that without a doubt, I love Kim Kardashian, and I think the world of her. She is a workhorse, like Ann Miller. She is non-stop. Okay, she loves her family. She's beautiful. She's smart as a whip. I love the legal work she's doing. All of that is, I without a doubt, I don't have anything bad to say about her, but I will say that the headline of Kim Kardashian thinks it's finally time to pay attention to herself. Kim Kardashian finally says it's me time.
I thought that was.
It was very hard. I wrote about it today on the Wow Report, and it was very hard for me not to be snarky and put in some sort of unironically says or some sort of like finally something. And I just did it very straight. But it is very funny that she's finally.
But you can. That's the beauty of the Kardashians, is they are a brand that can be parodied and it withstands. It can be believed and it withstands. It's an amazing brand. And I know I'm saying nothing new, but I think we talk about Mr. Tesla guy and Jeff Bezos. No. Kim Kardashian is the future. We live in Kim Kardashian's world. There, I said it.
But yes, I mean, the idea that it's me time because it hasn't been her time for the last 20 years.
I know. Poor Kim she's been like Florence Nightingale on the front.
She has raised 4 children. She has been through some bad relationships, most recently Kanye, that she put up with and tried to make heal. She has her whole family to a certain degree relying on her.
And now any of that. It is funny though that if someone as narcissistic as a Kardashian would say, but God love her.
All right, number 3.
I went on a Raymond Navarro kick on Turner Classic Movies the other week. Raymond Navarro, of course, was one of the most handsome men ever to be on the silver screen. He was a silent movie star, basically from 1922. His career sort of petered out in 1934, 35. So he was in the talkies a little bit, but he was, after Rudolph Valentino died, he was Hollywood's go-to for swarthy, lusty, leading men. And he was Mexican American, And because in Hollywood, that means that if you need an Arab, you need an Egyptian, you need an Italian, you need a Moroccan. Like, he played every single thing that could be imagined. And I watched this one called Mata Hari with Greta Garbo. And it's a talkie, and he plays a Russian soldier, and he doesn't even try to have a Russian accent. He has like a Mexican accent. It's so funny, but he's so beautiful. I mean, like in Mata Hari, he actually steals the screen. He's actually steals scenes from Greta Garbo because you're watching him the whole time. He's more beautiful than Greta Garbo. It's just unbelievable. But the funny thing is that he's got gay face. Like, really,
James, I thought he was gay.
He is gay, and that's just the thing. But in
oh.
the 20s and 30s, people didn't have gaydar, or they didn't know that the swishy little queen on stage was gay, because he was always playing these, these Lotharios. And it's so funny because he's sort of lispy. He's very effeminate. He's a pretty boy. He's a twink, is what he is. He's a pretty twink. And he afterwards, at his after his career sort of ended, he still stuck around, and he was like on, Bonanza, and like he did television in the 50s and 60s until his untimely death. And Tom, you know where I'm going with this, don't you? The very famous story about how he died that we'd all heard growing up was he hired two hustlers to come to his home, and they were brothers, and they tied him up and tortured him for like 8 hours. Just, I mean, terrible, while they were going through the house looking for what they thought was a treasure that he never had. That he had a fortune, he didn't have it. And then we'd always heard in alert here, if trigger alert, that he'd been fucked to death by a lead dildo, and that they just fucked him with a giant lead dildo, and that's how he died in 1968. Well, come to find out that Turner Classic Movies was talking about, and they said that the rumors you heard wasn't true, that he had choked on his own vomit after they had cracked his skull. And sadly, because in 1968 it wasn't considered that bad to kill a homo, I guess the men only got 2 years each, and then they were out on the streets again, and they both they raped other people, and they ended up back in prison, and one just died in 2016 and the other died in 2004. So it's the Raymond Navarro story is just fascinating. And watching his movies, I did The Student Prince of Old Heidelberg, where he's German. Doesn't make any sense. But then also the Ben-Hur, the original silent Ben-Hur, the Cecil B. DeMille version. So I just had a really good time sinking into Raymond Navarro.
Well, and also, I guess many people know this, but, Hollywood was a pretty gay place up until about 1933. The top box office star of the time, 1931, was William Haynes.
Yeah.
And he was openly gay, and lesbians were running the studios, Ali Nazimova. I mean, it was...
There was the knitting circle, the very famous knitting circle with Agnes Moorehead and Barbara Stanwyck, and who's the voice of Reagan in The Exorcist, Mercedes McCambridge.
Yeah.
And with Ida Lupino. Yeah. Oh, no, not Ida.
So it was a lost era and a lost time. Number two. The Razzies. Unlike the Oscars, the Razzies come before the Oscars, and unlike the Oscars, which are supposed to reward excellence, the Razzies reward awfulness. And this year, the number one most nominated movie with a sweep, it's actually the film of the Lady Diana musical.
Princess Diana, yes.
That's on Netflix.
The musical that I loved and you hated.
Yes. Yes.
I thought it's the new Showgirls. I thought I enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, there you go.
What was the song with the photographers? Click goes the camera. Click goes the camera. Something like that. It was just terrible.
It really was. I think it's still streaming on Netflix, right? I mean, I think there's a good point here that, like, in the pantheon of media, there's a place for the good and the bad, and of course it matters, but I think it engages us all, and it's all...
Well, if you remember, there have been some very famous Razzies. Sandra Bullock won the Oscar for The Blind Side, and she won the Razzie the same year, and she went to both ceremonies. And I think it was We Need to Talk, or It was something with Steve Carell. I can't remember that. Do you remember?
I can't remember the title.
She brought a wagon full of DVDs of the movies she won for and passed them out to everybody. She was a very good sport about it. And then also Halle Berry, I think, won for Catwoman, and she showed up. And
right.
so if you treat it like it's good fun, then it's okay.
And I'm just checking because I think the Razzies are actually going to be, you can watch them, I think. But the other bit of news about the Razzies is Bruce Willis has his own category. He's nominated 5 or 6 times for all of his roles in movies recently.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but he did 18 movies last year. He did 8 so far this year, and he's got another 4 coming out. They're all like what they would have been straight to video, in a former age, but because of streaming, he just works with this company. He goes on set for 1 or 2 days, gets paid $10 million, and he does one after the other after the other.
But statistically speaking, if you do that many movies, there's got to be a few Razzies in there, right? Yeah. Statistically speaking,
maybe a few Oscars too.
An Oscar, a Razzie, an Oscar, a Razzie.
All right. RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the World is streaming now on BBC 3 in the UK, on Wow Presents Plus, everywhere else. Sign up for Wow Presents Plus at wowpresentsplus.com. And of course, catch season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race tonight, 8 p.m. VH1. When we come back, we'll reveal, I'm very excited about this very special guest we have. We'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James St. James. And I'm very excited because we've been counting down the top 10 things of the week that make us go wow. And we've reached number 1.
Number 1.
And a super duper reveal. We're very excited to have with us this week Ryan Raftery, because you are about to premiere The Trial of Andy Warhol. And honey, you have come to the wrong place to talk about Andy Warhol because we're all obsessed.
I love it.
And this is so exciting. Tell us all about The Trial of Andy Warhol.
Well, in short, Andy Warhol is dead and on trial in the afterlife for essentially laying foundation for social media culture, which has led to the modern decay of our society. But it's a comedy and it's a musical, I promise you. But what inspired me was, I remember I was scrolling Instagram, and some account that I followed, the headline in his bio said Andy Warhol was the world's first influencer. And I thought, that's kind of true. I guess he really was. And then I did an exhaustive amount of research. I know all 3 of you know a ton about Andy Warhol. I know James, I know you've met him. I don't know if everyone has met him here, but I had such an incredible time researching him because it was infinitely fascinating for a million different reasons. And then the more your antenna go up, the more when you look around the world, his influence is everywhere.
It's Andy's world and we're living in it, right? I mean, first he invents reality TV and then he invents social media, and all from his grave.
You can, I mean, everything from TMZ to the Real Housewives to Jeff Koons to the way a supermarket looks to the way certain to the way people present themselves online, to Instagram itself, to Twitter. I mean, for the longest time, for over 20 years, he walked around the city with a camera around his neck and a tape recorder in his bag. And now we all walk around with cameras in our back pockets and tape recorders, and we document our lives ad nauseum. And I interviewed so many people. The guy, I don't know if you read the biography that came out about a year and a half ago by Blake Kopnick, that the 850. Oh, you have it there?
Yeah, of course he does. It's somewhere.
Yeah, I interviewed him, and I went, there it is. It's a big old doorstop. I got to meet him, and I got to interview him and ask him questions. And he is like a hardcore academic. And then I got to go to the museum in Pittsburgh, and I got the very first post-COVID tour, and they spent all this time with me, obviously, because they had not done it in a long time. And I got to look at the archives and just see, like, the thing that I found most fascinating about them are the time capsules. There are 610 of these boxes, and Warhol knew that people would be interested in it. Yes, he was an inveterate hoarder, But I think that he also knew that people were going to be interested in what he collected after he was gone. And I found that to be fascinating. And they haven't even gotten 1/4 of the way into inventorying those boxes. So that's fascinating. But I remember I was at a dinner with some other friends who do what I do. And I said, oh, I'm working on an Andy Warhol musical. And they said, how are you going to make Andy Warhol sing? I was like, well, guess what? Martha Stewart couldn't sing, and Anna Wintour and all the other people I've played on stage.
Well, I do want to sort of talk about that a little bit because for people who don't know you, you do these sort of one person shows, but there's people in it, but it's essentially it's you singing and monologuing as a character. And you have done, let me see, you've done Anna Wintour very famously. You did Ivanka Trump, you did Andy Cohen, you did what? Martha Stewart?
Calvin Klein and Martha Stewart.
Calvin Klein, yes. Yeah. And it's funny the way people react to these shows and why then the people who have actually are being skewered have sometimes. Didn't Anna Wintour send her daughter to check it out?
Yeah, her daughter came opening night, and that was the first time that was my very first show, and I did not expect. I mean, I had been doing these little shows in New York and very, very, very incrementally getting a little bit of an audience to luckily come follow me. And then when I did that show, her daughter came to opening night, and then the New York Times happened to hear about it. And then I remember her daughter Instagrammed a photo of us, and then it got press in 12 countries. So it got a whole new level of attention on me. And then
you saw her, you ran into Anna in an elevator, right?
I did run into Anna in an elevator. And I was at an audition, and I got into the elevator, and this sounds made up, but I got into the elevator and it was just the two of us alone. And of course, she's unmistakable. And I said to her, I said, hi, Anna. And mind you, we're on like the 14th floor. So we've got about 30 seconds in the elevator together. And she looks, she was on her BlackBerry. And I said, hi, Anna. And she looked up at me behind the sunglasses and she just said, of course. And then she went back down to her BlackBerry. And I said, do you know who I am? And she just went, the musical, without taking her eyes up. And I said, well, thank you for donating your sunglasses to our charity auction. And she said, of course. The elevator got to the main floor and she got out, and I never said another word. And I mentioned that story to someone who knows her, and they said, that is about as good as an interaction as you're going to get. So as well as it can possibly have gone.
I think Anna has been cruelly misjudged by pop culture. And I think that I made the mistake of, we did a film about Vogue and the editors at Vogue. And in the press, doing all the press, everyone was like, what is she like? And they want to hear stories of the ice goddess, And I said, oh no, she's like a Furby. And that went viral because,
She's like a Furby.
She's I found her warmer and funnier than I expected. And
I think that she is extraordinarily decisive and a private person. But in my research, there's always, with all of these people, I always like to say that the skeleton of the story is true, but the musculature is all conjecture. Like, I make it funny because I'm a comedian. But whenever I'm researching these people, you always want to find something real to hold on to, like what makes this person tick. And everyone says, what makes Anna Wintour like that? And in my research, what I imagined, and it's hinted at in the September issue, is that her father never really believed in her, and her siblings are very, very, very serious people. I'm doing air quotes for those of you who can't see me, but they all think that fashion is kind of funny. And I think that maybe it's that insecurity. Granted, this is conjecture. I'm just guessing.
Well, I want to run something by you. I mean, do you think there's a similarity between Anna Wintour and Andy Warhol? They share the same initials. And I think that they're both similarly almost shy or introspective.
Well, yeah, but and to your point, like Andy, think about what everybody that I interviewed who knew Andy said that Andy was only really interested in you for 3 reasons. You were either very rich, very attractive, or you were a very good talker. And that's because he grew up dirt poor, he thought he was ugly, and he was painfully shy. So he was constantly looking for this kind of he was kind of even what he said about Edie Sedgwick in the philosophy of Andy Warhol. He refers to her by the name Taxi, and he says, Taxi had more problems than anybody had ever met in my life. And he was so fascinated by Edie, and she's a character in the show. And he gets to, because the show takes place in the afterlife, I've gotten to write these scenes between Andy Warhol and Jean-Michel Basquiat, and these scenes between Andy Warhol and Edie Sedgwick, who have not seen each other, obviously, since they died.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, that's the one thing that when we had a little interaction the other day, when you were talking about that, about Andy's relationship with Basquiat,
Right.
and saying that after Basquiat felt burned by the Shafrazi show and they never spoke again. And I was saying that I was at that Shafrazi show and I remember very vividly their interactions, but I didn't realize that they were not. That's one of those things that I had no idea about, that they stopped speaking after that.
Well, it certainly fractured their friendship. I mean, Warhol, as the legend goes, Warhol took a Polaroid of the two of them, like a selfie, Andy being the grandfather of the selfie. And then he handed Basquiat the Polaroid, and Basquiat disappeared for 2 hours and came back with that painting, which was called Dos Capezas. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but he did a painting of himself and Andy Warhol. And he came back 2 hours later, and Warhol was like, "You just did this now?" And he was fascinated with him ever since, because Andy also said constantly, he goes, "I want to be a machine, as much as machine-like as I can be. That is what I want." So the idea that Basquiat could turn out a painting that quickly, there was a fascination there. But the thing that I find so fascinating about Jean-Michel Basquiat is that the narrative that's been written about him is completely false. I mean, yes, he did live in Tompkins Square Park, sleeping on park benches. Yes, he was homeless, but that was by his own choice. He came from a middle-class family. He went to private school. He spoke 3 languages. He was very well read, very well versed in poetry and jazz music. But he had a mother who suffered from mental illness. He had a father who was very big into corporal punishment, and his father wanted him to be a businessman. He obviously didn't want to do that. He got very into the downtown scene. He was DJing at the Mud Club, and he was obviously exploring the artistic side of him, and he started spray painting. But yes, he was a graffiti artist, but it was poetry. He was expressing himself in a very new and exciting way. So when he started to become famous, I think it was easy for the media to say, "Oh, look at this like brilliant street urchin," but it really wasn't that. His path was chosen, and I think he did it because he wanted to express himself. But Warhol was like a father to him, because Basquiat's father was, even though they were estranged, like his father, there was this famous story where Basquiat, I forget which restaurant he was in, but he was in an expensive restaurant, and his father was there with business associates, and he went over to his father, and his father wouldn't look up. So Andy kind of became this father figure to him. He tried to get Jean-Michel to stop taking drugs. He tried to get him to paint more. And then, Andy, if you see video of them together, like Andy always has his arm around him. It's a very kind of avuncular kind of love. Obviously, it wasn't a romantic thing. But when I think that Basquiat felt used when the reviews for that show came out, and the New York Times said, "Oh, it's another one of Warhol's manipulations. Basquiat is his mascot." That really set him off, and their relationship never really repaired.
But the pictures are so good. I love those pictures.
They're masterpieces. They're masterpieces now, but the art scene, there was not, I looked, trust me, there is not a single positive review of that show.
I remember that show. I wish I was living on 635 East 9th Street on the 6th floor with zero money.
I know.
It would have been so great to buy one, right?
I
James,
know.
what are they selling for?
They did so much. It's 1/10 of Basquiat's entire body of work. That's how much they painted together. And Andy, a lot of people don't remember, Andy had not painted by hand in years at this point. He has been silk screening for at least a good 7-8 years. He had not picked up a paintbrush, and Basquiat inspired him to do that. And they had this really, really, really incredible relationship for 2 years. And then the reviews ruined it. And then Andy died in 1987. Basquiat died a year and a half later. Keith Haring a year after him. So, I mean, it was like this 3 years of like this intense loss in the art world.
Can we do a deal right now to make this into a film right now? Here, let's do it. I don't want people listening to this show and then reading all about the fifth has been snapped up to.
You got it. Yeah, you
right.
got it.
We have to sort of wrap up a little bit. I wanted to ask if you'd seen on the podcast where Joey Arias is talking about doing the Andy Warhol thing, and Andy
Yes.
was watching, and afterwards he said, Ann Magnuson did so well as the dead girl.
Yes.
He wouldn't even say Edie Sedgwick's name, which I think
I heard that story on your podcast, and then he went to the movies. I love that story how Joey Arias and Andy went to the movies together. As soon as the lights go down, Andy falls asleep, and he wakes up at the end. He goes, "That was the best movie I'd ever seen."
So
it's like he refuses to admit that he was sleeping.
So tell us where we can see this, and where and when, and all the deets.
Yes, the trial of Andy Warhol opens at Joe's Pub at the Public Theater Sunday, February 20th. We run through March 12th, and you can get tickets at joespub.com. And I hope that you guys, maybe you'll find yourself in New York.
I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to come see it. I swear, like I cannot
I think you would love it. Hey, if you want, we can go out. I'll go out as Andy and I'll talk to you as Andy. People have asked me to do that already, which I think is the worst.
You can find time to go to the theater, but you can't find time to do my damn podcast. Yeah. I cannot believe you said it, Bailey.
I see Andy Warhol cameos in your future.
Oh yeah. People
well, that's right. I love the recreation of the Andy and Jean-Paul picture, and you make a great Andy. I think you look awesome.
I'm just sorry I never got to see Ivanka, because I would love to see you as Ivanka Trump. That was that was the first time I had ever done full drag, and it was painful.
You must be glad.
So no drag race in your future.
Oh man, I mean, like, I think America would hate me because I would complain about the heels, and I wear those little platforms, which is I know it's like cheating, but I had a great time doing that show, and unfortunately got cut short because of COVID. But it was all about the lead up to the election and how Ivanka. It was kind of like the Manchurian Candidate. Ivanka was having her brain controlled from Moscow, and they were going to install their first American president, well, controlled by the Russians. It was a lot of fun, but who knows? Maybe it'll come back. Oh, that's the great thing about all these shows. They can all come back.
Well, it's all true. That's the other thing about that particular show.
Yeah.
Ivanka's the second movie. Okay.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah. I'm a very pretty blonde. I assure you.
Thank you for joining us. You have to come back. You have to come back
sometime.
Thank
you so much. I'm such a fan of all of yours, and thank you so much for having me on.
Ryan, you're awesome.
Ryan,
thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. Thanks for tuning in to the Wow Report on Radio and Sirius XM. Previous episodes on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.